Geeta Chandran, dancer, choreographer, founder president, Natya Vriksha, artistic director, Natya Vriksha Dance Company, awarded the Padma Shri in 2007, Central Sangeet Natak Academy awardee in 2016, Tagore National Fellow 2018 to 2020. A celebrated artist and star performer, classical Indian dancer and choreographer, Geeta Chandran uses her inordinate skill in Bharatanatyam as force multiplier for the widest range of dance issues that have engaged her focus, linkages between body and mind, the relationships between solo dancing, group dancing, and choreography, and dance as a medium for expressing abstract notions of joy, beauty, values, aspirations, myth, and spirituality.
Namaste, Geeta ji, and welcome to Pratibimb Reflections of an Artist. JG College of Performing Arts and we are really thankful to you for having accepted this invitation. And it is a great honor for me because I have been for many years watching all your works. And in fact, I missed Gandhi when you came to Ahmedabad. That day, unfortunately, I was not here, I was in Kerala. But I have been, of course, watching these pieces on YouTube also, a couple of works of yours. And once again, thank you very much for being here. Geeta ji, you are a thinking artist who has synthesized the knowledge you have received from all your gurus. What are the specific elements that you imbibed from each one of them?
Long question. Firstly, I'd like to thank Pratibimb. I think it's a great idea because I think in our learning, teaching process, not much of documentation of the process of an artist is really done. So anybody who's interested in process is my friend. Because I think the end product is just a small thing, you know. It's the process which is enriching for anybody who is engaged with the arts and who's a serious, wanting to be a serious artist, not a performer. I mean, there's a big difference. Yeah. Because I think all our pedagogy is designed to create performers, unfortunately. And everybody, the day they start learning any dance form or particularly Bharatanatyam, they'll start thinking and dreaming about their Arangetram. Not really thinking about what would they do in the next class and what is it that they're going to learn, which can be a life-changing experience, you know.
Correct.
So I just feel that all my teachers were very, very giving in what they shared without holding back. And that's a great blessing that I had. At the age of 5, I was taken by my mother to Srimati Swarna Saraswati, who hailed from the Dasi Parampara and who was from the community, the hereditary community. And she had her training in Kanjivaram and Tanjavur and then came to Chennai, and she had illustrious gurus teaching her. So she was a slice of history actually, which I didn't realize till much later. For me, she was just Amma. And her home was an extension of my home. And there was a fixed time of going to class, was never a fixed time of coming back from class. Okay. So my mother had to come and say, don't you want to go home? And then we'd come back. So there was a lot of imbibing, in a sense, just watching and imbibing and learning rather than just one-to-one teaching, learning from peer, learning from older students, watching them. So we used to watch the class of the seniors, then we used to do our own class, then she used to make us stand in front and do the sequences to teach the next lot. So I think this whole process of this extended process of teaching, learning, you know, not just looking at the clock and saying, oh, it's 1 hour, wind up. Not that kind of thing, you know. It is just a life lifestyle of learning, you know.
Right.
So that's why I think dance got ingrained into our lives. It was never an extraneous kind of thing which we did in the classroom and forgot about it. So you would be humming the tune of a composition you learned while going back, skipping, hopping with your mother, and you'd be still humming it. In the night, again, you know, you'd be humming it. In the morning, you'll get up. My father would be chanting Vishnu Sahasranamam, and then there'll be the LP record that would be playing all the compositions of the great composers, I mean, great musicians at that time. And then my mother would say, yes, yesterday you were singing Sahana when you came back. Now, can you identify another composition in Sahana, which has been playing today? So I think this is how we grew. You know, it was not uh, exclusively classroom learning. It was just throughout, it was embedded in whatever you did. So I think that we were very fortunate to get that. Then of course evenings would be one class or the other, because I started music also very early, learning music. And of course formal education was very important, but at the same time I think practice time, the time management was handled by my mother very, 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 very methodically. So I learned time management very early in life, and that everything had a fixed time. It was not negotiable. Today, I see so many distractions children have, that even if they have a timetable, I'm very particular about timetable. I always tell my children, you must have a timetable for the day, for the week, and for the month. Otherwise, I don't think, you know, you sail through things and you keep doing things as and when it comes to you. That, you know, cannot
Doesn't
really,
work. Yeah.
doesn't work. So I think we had a fixed time for practicing music, for practicing dance, for reading, for listening. So I think all these things were built into. Of course, we didn't come from a generation where there was social media, where there's television beaming at us with channels. Yes, we didn't have all this, and so I think that was a blessing. So our exposure was at very, very different levels. And Swarna Amma taught only Tanjavur quartet compositions mostly, which Tanjavur school practiced. And the Varnams were all quartet Varnams. And by the age of 10 or 12, I knew at least 6 Tanjavur quartet Varnams. And many, many Shabdams, Jatiswarams, Dillanas. Padam Javli was their mainstay. So many, many Padams, Kshetrinya Padams, and other Padams. So I think that you know, Amma's teaching was such that you keep giving, and one day it'll just come up, you know. And so that process was a very different process from waiting till you perfect a piece. You know, this was kind of filling the pot with many ideas, many concepts, many compositions, and widening the pool. And it is up to the intelligence of the student who wants to sustain, who wants to take it forward, will take a deeper dive into what one has learned and process it. So hers was like that, you know, she was giving. While one composition was on, if her mood was on some other Padam or Javli, while going, she'd say, "Adi rikkatum, ida kattuko." You know, so it was not like, you know, you finish one piece, you perfect it, and then only you could go to the next piece. So it was like multiple layers of learning. And she would sing a composition. One day she would sing something, and next day when you went all prepared that this is how she's going to sing, she would sing it in a completely different accent. You know, the accent would change. So you realize that dance was not written in stone. Dance was a creative process, and it had lots of lanes and by lanes which you needed to explore.
Oh, true.
So
Yeah.
one thing that I feel sad about today is that we structure things so much, and we make them feel that tradition is daunting. Tradition should not be kind of meddled around with. Tradition is something that is set in stone, and, you know, you need to learn it, and you need to just say it the way it has been said. That kind of a thing takes away from the creative process of an artist. After Swarnama, I did my Arangetram at the age of 14. There was a bit of a lull because she had ill health and she couldn't teach. And I was hesitant to go to another teacher, but I loved dancing. There was no way that I was going to stop dancing. Uh, and the gender thing was also there because I learned from Amma, and to most of the gurus at that time were male Natavanas in Delhi. So that change also, I was hesitating. Oh, how would I learn from a male teacher? And I had those apprehensions. But finally, I went to Dakshinamurthy sir, K.N. Dakshinamurthy, younger brother of Dandayuthapani Pillai, famous Nattuvanar who traversed many creative endeavors he had, including choreographing for films, etc. So from Amma's tradition, which was uh, a very self-nurturing and a self-engaging, indulgent kind of a dance tradition, I went to Dakshinamurthy sir, who was all about flamboyant performance. You know, he was a performer. He came from the Mridangam tradition. He was a percussionist initially, and then he started, teaching dance. So the first day he came, he said, "Can dance be this also? I never knew this." He came and he started and he says, அந்த தோடைய மங்கள ஆரம்பிச்சுடலாம், இல்லைன்னா ஒரு புஷ்பாஞ்சலி ஆரம்பிச்சுடலாம். தத்தோடகதாம் தந்தன் தந்தன் டெண்டே தத்தோடங்க தக்குதாத்தே. He would say that, and I said, till then there was no Pushpanjali, there was no Mela Prapti, there was nothing. There was no Mallari, nothing. Varano Nera, it is Alaripu. That is how Amma's tradition was. It was I would say a pre-proscenium engagement with dance, more the way it was done in other temple traditions or in other spaces where, and Amma used to always say, what is this stage covering? It requires so much more energy and power to dance in a small place, because then the gravity you use and the power comes from the core. So this kind of, it used to say, mange aadrale, all over the place they are. So this is, dispersing all the energy. It's not conserving that energy and giving it like that. So this, and sir was saying, Yenna, why are you not moving? So the two were like, so I had fun engaging. I was young, I had energy. So I really liked this new interpretation to dance. And I imbibed the whole, proscenium stage techniques from Dakshinamurthy sir. They had fabulous jatis, because Dandayuthapani himself had a whole, he was also a composer. He had his own varnams, and the jatis were tat tat gadidin, tat 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 gadidin gadittana junuta hatakita takata ditta tana tanata junuta debidimetta kitataritta danata junutta demitta ditta taditta takatiki kadakadakadum. So the very catchy, very sparkling jatis with lots of gaps, poses, silences. So it is very wonderful,
vibrant and striking. Yes, yeah,
very striking, because I think that was missing in the dance that I was doing at that time. And dance was changing, because dance from the older way of interpreting dance, we had moved to larger spaces, we had moved to larger theaters. It was becoming more of a very exotic dance form that was also then engaging. The West was looking at us. We were the flavor of that period, and India was really, a cynosure of a lot of things.
The golden period, in fact, yeah.
Yes, so dance was changing. So I think these two learning processes, I had to synthesize and connect and keep the best of both, and see how, without giving up the essence of what Amma's philosophy of dance was, to how to take it forward with this razzmatazz also, so that, when you perform, you have both intensity
Yes.
and the power of instant, um, um, you know, capturing the attention, that also. Then what happened to me was a very interesting thing. I started learning Abhinaya from Jamuna Krishnan separately. And that took me to Kalanidhi, Mami, Kalanidhi
Okay.
Narayanan. That was of adding one more beautiful dimension to the dance form and going deep into the technique of Abhinaya, the technique of ideation, the technique of how you change characters without really. Earlier, when you dance, you did Krishna, you had to do Radha, you turned and you did Radha.
Yes.
And and Mami would do. So that is it. So the role play was, this is Krishna and this is Radha. So so quick. So those techniques of also of how you expand the line in terms of the idea, keeping the Sthai Bhava in place. How do you build around that? So all that were beautiful takeaways from Srimati Jamuna Krishnan and from Kalanidhi Narayanan. And yes, synthesizing all this is the challenge. I think there lies the key. You can learn from 40 gurus and still be confused and extremely patchy about your learning. But I think what you need, that is where I think thinking comes in an artist, where the artist needs to think and process what she's learning. So today I see this point I would like to emphasize here, because there's a lot of material that is being, given to us on social media, and children are actually inundated with workshops. Somebody is saying this is the best way to keep fit. Somebody else is saying this is the way Tilana has to be done. Somebody else is saying this is tradition. Somebody else is saying that is not tradition at all. So I think there's so many multiple voices that are coming to a young dancer. I'm glad I'm not a young dancer at this point in time, because I think it's a very, very confused situation. If you don't have a mentor, teacher guiding you and holding your hand, it can
Yes.
be a miserable time.
That's very
Because
important. Yes.
yeah, because there's so much information. How do you process that information? If somebody doesn't tell you this is valuable and this is not so valuable, and you can let that go, you're holding on to all this, and then at the end of the, if I was a young dancer today, I would view all this and it would push me into a state of inactivity, you know because it's the confusion is so much.
Yes. Yes.
So I just feel that processing is very important. What works for me? What is my personality? I can't copy another success story of another dancer. It cannot work. Dance has to be learned, practiced, and it has to be made your own. You have to own the dance that you do. It has to be a vocabulary that is your own, thought process that is your own. And the classical gives you enough space to do that. It
Absolutely.
is not as though it is, as I said, this is the only way it has to be done. You learn the tradition, you learn enough so that you make that vocabulary strong, and your spine has actually kind of, registered that. And then after that, you fly with that vocabulary. For flight, for that flight, you need lots of introspection, lot of thinking, lot of engaging in all the areas of dance. It's not enough. Dance is not to move your hands and legs. It is about poetry, it is about mythology, it is about spirituality, it is about philosophy, it is about rhythm, it is about melody, it is about the sangeetam.
Yes.
So I think there's so many aspects.
It's all
So nowadays,
interdependent. Yes.
yes, and it is interdisciplinary. Everything is connected to everything. Like they say that if you need to sing, you need to know Sahitya. If you need to write Sahitya, you need to know dance. If you have to dance, you need to know music, Sahitya, everything. Everything. So it's all interconnected. Otherwise, it's just going to be a robotic experience which you just learn, and you are like how are you
Blind.
different from yes, how are you different from a circus artist or anybody else, who also engages with the body and who's practicing every day? How is art different? Where is the art in the dance? I'm sorry, it's a very long answer
No,
that
no,
I
but
had.
in fact, I think you're blessed to have such wonderful gurus. And because I know when Kalanidhi Mami came to Ahmedabad, and Ahmedabad and the Gujarat structure is very different. Though we are supposed to be having n number of thousands of dancers here, but there are very few people, very few. In fact, you can list them out and pick them out who actually, like you said, think about the whole process and work behind that. And when Mami came, she wanted to teach Yahi Madhava to all of us. So she said, okay, today is the first class, please sit down. So we said, okay, we're beginning like this. But you won't believe it, 10 days, we just sat there, we didn't move. And Mami was showing so many variations of that whole, the Abhinaya. And a lot of the students were saying, when kya re hame ubha the na dance, when will we get up and start dancing? Mami said, why do you want to get up and dance? Sit and dance and show me what you're feeling about it. So, it is very, very true. And in fact, I think this generation, what happens is just like you said, when everything is available on the social network, they even just pick up a dance done so beautifully by somebody who must have put in so much of thought into the process and performed it, and then they just replicate it and in fact murder the whole piece. So it is very sad sometimes. It
Not only that, also these workshops. I mean, I have nothing against workshops, but in 2 days to learn the whole process of ideation of an artist of a senior level, it's just not possible. See, the end product is only shared. So the end product sharing is that, and that artist in what point in her graph has she choreographed that? How much has gone through before in terms of the engagement to get there? So you can't just at one point grab something and say, now I'm going to do it. What point in your life are you? So that's why I never do workshops. I do process workshops. I don't do item workshops. I can do a workshop to help you understand what how dance is and how you can create and how you can see multiple ideas and how you can from there kind of peel things and
and
see
evolved from it,
and
yes.
yes, and how in a jati, a very very traditional jati, how you see the connections, how you see, is there a movement before you are doing a movement? Supposing this is a movement, is there a movement before that? Is there an oscillation before that movement? This is kind of thinking process that you need to understand. It's not, and if you know that, then you can create yourself. I mean, you have to empower the artist, not disempower the artist by feeding, spoon feeding and saying,
Correct.
this is great, this is what you do, you know this, you just go and practice this and do it and make another copy of myself. I think that is really sad because that doesn't work. That doesn't work. What works for me might not work for you
Work
as
for
a
it.
thought process, as the body, even the body. Every adavu I need to customize on a student because somebody has long upper arms, somebody has short lower arms. When you do the Natya Aramba, it doesn't look nice. The same thing doesn't say, you can't say shoulder level, raise your elbows. No, sometimes you need to go beyond that and you say,
Yes.
this doesn't work for you, beta. You need to kind of maybe extend your arms a little, maybe you need to raise it a little. So many minute things you need to craft on the student. How are you going to do that in a 2-day workshop or 3-day workshop? It's very hard.
That's very true. In fact, a couple of years back, when Chandrasekhar sir was coming to Baroda, I wanted to get him to Ahmedabad, and I said, "Sir, please do come." And he was coming with Krida there, so he very happily agreed to that because he always said that Gujarat has not been giving him too many platforms. So sir came there, and then I opened it up to the students. I said, "Sir's coming. We'll have a 5-day workshop." So immediately the next question, Kai item, what is the item? I said, there's no item. We are going to sit with sir from morning till evening, all going to sit and listen to his journey and his experiences and the pieces that he's been, dancing on. And it was absolutely wonderful. In fact, I don't think anybody has experienced that kind of a thing in Ahmedabad where they went away without actually not really learning a item.
You go back enriched because you are richer by that whole experience that he has gone through, and
Yes.
how he created, if he did Krida, what was the thought behind it, what was the process of creating it, so that you, when you create, you can kind of, think of all that.
Exactly, and because it was, though it was very much rooted to the traditional form, it had so much of contemporary concepts in it, like the way the games were played and all that. Very beautiful. Geetaji, a trained and accomplished vocalist, have you used this element on stage in your performances? What I mean is that how did it enhance the performance? Any particular piece you would like to talk about where you were on stage, though you have and the accompanist with you, you break into the regime and then you sing yourself.
Yes, yes. I did many years back. I did a whole program, not whole program. I think about few padams where I sang myself, and I called it Vachika Abhinaya. And because these were padams learned from Sonasusthy Amma and from Kalandhi Mami and all, and so I just thought. Of course, earlier it was possible for artists to sing and dance because it was in a small chamber
Yes,
kind of, and every nuance of the face as you sang and danced would be visible, and it should be very very clear. But on stage you need to use amplification, and that becomes a bit of a problem, because then when you sing, your breath is also kind of there, and so it is a difficult process. But the the beauty of being able to translate every sangadi, every little oscillation that you take in music, to be able to translate it into dance is possible when you sing and dance. Of course, my musicians, I never work with new musicians. My musicians have been with me for many many
and
years,
yes,
with me for 20 years, and so they know, even if I kind of breathe, they know exactly what sangadi would sit for a certain um, you know abhinaya piece. So yeah, that understanding takes a long time. Dance and music are just inseparable, and I think anybody who doesn't have a ear for music, um, I don't think you can really get to the bottom of that,
yes,
uh, uh, the dance, because and it's, when I say, people think it's only about abhinaya, what is there if you only for the abhinaya part. There is music in every movement, there is music in every pure dance bit that you do. Musicality is part and parcel of dance. We cannot separate the pure dance from the
yes,
abhinaya. It is a seamless thing. In a varnam, you have to see it as a seamless work. So I just feel that that musicality has to be in every pore of you. It's only then that you create that visual musical poetry, which we always talk about. And that's possible only, like, in if somebody is singing a certain extension of Sahana, or a certain extension of Shanmuga Priya, or say Shankaraparanam, you know that after this phrase this is what will come.
hmm.
There is a certain natural flow
Flow of
in
it,
the
yes,
development of a raga. So, once you know that, then you craft your dance accordingly. And from this sangadi, it will move to this sangadi. From this note, it will go to this note. This oscillation is a must in Kamboji. So it will come. So these kinds of things help you in expanding and understanding your abhinaya, even if it's the same hand that you do. Like this, yesterday I was just teaching this Puvi Kalyani Varnam. சாமியேவர் சொல்லடி தண்டா இது பண்ணிப்பில்லை சகியே குமார. Now swamiyevar, now that swami, it's not swami.
yeah, very,
Now the music is saying, "Hey, hey, hey," and you are doing, "Hey." That's what your face is doing.
hmm.
Swami
Beautiful.
In that sholladi, you have scope because it's a comma.
Mm.
So you fill in by saying, won't you do this for me? Come on. So the commas, the hyphens, the semicolons, which are there in music, need to be intelligently used.
Mm.
So, Sakhiye, Sakhiye, next time you can use it. Even the same and Sakhiye, it changes mood because the music is changing.
Correct.
Sakhiye, Sakhiye. So it's not about changing hastas, it's changing the mood.
Moods.
It is dictated by the music.
Correct.
So there's no way you can get away from the texture of the dance can only improve when you understand the nuances of music. So it is very hard to transmit this. So what is happening is we are looking for easy pedagogy, things that can be transmitted easily, which can just be quick. Rendu kai inge, 30 mette, jati. So if you have to teach a varnam, it takes 6 to 7 months of grilling, of singing it every day. The other thing I'm realizing now is, which I realized from my own students, that when you studio record and give them a piece for performing or whatever, because I always, with the scale, I sing in the class. I don't use recorded music in the class.
Right.
So what happens is, we were all blessed to have that even with our teachers. None of our teachers used recorded music. They all sang and taught us. So what happened? We were very comfortable with Kalapramanam. Because you don't sing in the same Kalapramanam every day.
Correct.
One day you take Varnam in a certain Kalapramanam, next day you take a Jatiswaram in another Kalapramanam. So Laya and this Kalapramanam came very naturally to us. But today, because they are dancing to recorded music, they need that Kalapramanam only.
Correct.
You see, so I realized my senior students, 1 or 2 pieces which I was doing, I suddenly started singing it in the class and they were so frozen. I said, what happened? No, Akka, this is a little faster. I said, who told you it is faster? Who decides what is fast? You jolly well know to do it fast, slow, whatever it is, and ultimately you arrive at a pace which is comfortable. That is all right. But when you practice in class, there is no saying that this is the only pace I can do it.
Correct.
Not at all. That is not the way we have been taught, and that is not the way I plan to teach. So, there's so many, and in this lockdown, we've also been trying a lot of things. What I did is a particular piece, I took a padam, and I had the recording of 3 different musicians who had sung it.
Okay.
And I told them, back to back, we are doing this piece now, and I'm going to play the 3 different versions, and let us see if it impacts your dance. Because it impacts my dance. I dance very differently. I have 2 musicians who sing for me, one male and one female, both fabulous musicians, but their approach to music is completely different. So when they sing, they do bring their personality to what they sing. My dance completely changes. One is an artist who uses a lot of sangadis and who's naturally a very, very flamboyant artist. So I naturally become flamboyant with that dance, with that kind of music. I start competing with her, and I also want to then translate those sangadis into my dance. But the other is a more reposeful, you hold a note, and there is kind of a different kind of approach. So your dance also becomes more introspective, and it acquires different. So when they all did it, they're all not very senior, middle level dancers who've done about 3 to 4 varnams, and they're engaging. And it was a revelation for them because they could feel the difference. They said, yes, it's the same composition, but sung so differently by 3 different artists. I said, yes. So this ear has to be always
Yes.
open as to who is singing and what is being sung. It is not a piece is done, anybody singing anything, you are doing the same thing. You know, it doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So that is not an artist. That could be, you know, anybody can do it. You know, why do you need the skill of a Bharatanatyam dancer then?
No, it's very true because, in fact, you know, here again, I keep bringing examples of Gujarat because I've been living in Gujarat for so long, and yet again, I had the opportunity to be with gurus from the south while I was staying there. Couple of things like when we talk about the musicians, we have a wonderful singer here. She is excellent. She was in Delhi and now she shifted here, Srimati Vidya Srinivasan. And Vidyaji, in fact, you know, when she starts singing, she has her own way of getting into the song and the lines and all that. So when we went to the studio once, the studio technician was only used to clicks. So he said, see, I'm going to give you clicks and please. He said, no, then how do I bring my own imagination into that? And then I also remember my guru from Darpana, Patakudi Ramaswamy sir, who was an excellent singer, you know, and we always used to envy him and tell sir, sir, when you start singing, people don't watch us. They're always watching you and listening to your singing. And then we also used to say that, you know, you're very partial to certain dancers because when they come on stage, the way you sing, we wish we were on stage, you know, and dancing along with that. So it really matters. And I think also a lot of dancers here, when they sing the songs, when they're, you know, the teachers, when they're giving the pieces to the students, even the lyrics many a times are not taken properly because they listen to a cassette and put their own words into it. And it just goes away from the total meaning of the piece. And it's appalling sometimes. And you wonder, why don't they do a little research before they get into this? Geeta through dance, you have explored the complex interlinkages between classical dance tradition and its strict grammar with other disciplines, philosophy, ritual, religion, myths, ancient texts, poetry, literature, art, painting and sculpture, cultural studies, yoga, handicrafts, handlooms, and beauty and aesthetics. This, I mean, it's kind of really going through all the canvases of everything that is really interconnected with art. But something which interested me because I've also done sculpture from MS University, Baroda. How did you bring this aspect of painting and sculpture into your dance?
I think it's your nature to be interested in many things because and this visual aesthetic needs to be kind of built as a child, you know, of appreciating form, color, shape. This has engaged me a lot. And my father he was an avid travel person, so we used to travel a lot.
Okay.
And wherever we went, you know, we used to always he used to just let me stand, gaze, see, observe, just kind of visually, take in all these things, whether it is a potter, whether it is a stapati who's doing, making a sculpture, um, or is a terracotta pot that is being made, whatever it is, So, and of course, very frequent travel to the temple towns and to see the flowers, the camphor, the smell, the lifestyle. It's all a living tradition. You go to Banaras, people say it's so dirty. I say, don't know to go beyond that dirt, then don't go.
Exactly. Yeah.
There is so much. It's a pulsating place. Banaras is a place very close to my heart. Vrindavan is a place very close to my heart. And I just feel that energy that is there in these living towns, towns with culture. There, one corner you hear this, the weaving, sound of the weaver. Next
Yes,
minute,
yes.
somebody is singing baul around the corner. The next minute, there is MS Subbalakshmi's Supravadam there on the other side. The next minute, this side, there is somebody who is dancing a Kathak composition, a tumri. So, you know, it's this composite culture. You can't separate sculpture from form and shape, and this whole understanding, visual understanding of this aesthetic construct called India. It's just too much. A lifetime is not enough to
Absolutely.
take in.
Absolutely.
I'm very fond of textiles. I'm very fond of, as I said, feelings things, smelling things. I think the senses, why has God given us all this? If we can't experience what is around us. And it's sad because my students come and I say, last night was full moon. Did you just sit and gaze at the moon? They say, oh, okay, was it? So whether it was the travel from Delhi to Trichur, we used to take a train and go, 2 days. You literally saw India, the flora, the fauna, the
Yes.
crossing of the Deccan, and how everything changed. The taste of tea changed, and suddenly you had coffee being served. And those were the days when somewhere along the way, in some station, some relative used to come and bring a thermos of coffee and give it to you. I mean, small things, but you reach Nagpur and you had to buy the oranges. So so all these were very, very small things, but they, I think, influenced me in a very, very big way, because I used to be sitting by the side of the window and just watching this
Watch.
vast, areas, and how the air, the scent of the air changed, how the mountains suddenly look different, and how the green of the leaf color changes. So, I think observation is a huge thing for an artist. And ultimately, all that comes into the dance, because dance is just not what you're taught, it is what you have stored in your computer. The hard drive needs to be full of things, which somewhere something comes out,
Right.
and you use it. So I think the first few formative years have to be just this filling in of this visual aesthetics that the child needs to understand. Really don't need to teach anything, but this exposure, and that, I think, slowly you take on, and one by one, things fall in place. Then you go on to iconography, then you go on to see why Shiva has these various postures, what is the
Course.
significance of everything. And then the questioning starts, and then you sit with scholars, you see, look at interpretations, and then you see what fits where and how much to use. Because today also I feel there is so much information at the click of a button, that you just do a Google search and you get so much that, even when a, a piece does not really require that kind of delineation of a story, it is put there for good measure. So how much to be used and where to be used, the
And balance
judicious
as
use,
well. Yeah.
balance, and the the right place you say what you have to say, then it has the impact, not just anywhere fitting in anything. So suddenly in the midst of a varnam I hear Geetopadesham coming nowadays. Suddenly in a Shiva piece, a proper kirtanam is going on. Nadula, there is the Nadesha Kautum being pushed in. I mean, this kind of, I don't know whether this is called experimentation or adaptation, but I feel if you're choosing a piece, then be true to that piece. Keep the piece as it is and try and do what you can do. But this mix-up is not my. I don't. I don't subscribe to that. I think I am still a traditional person in that. That it has enough to explore, and you can do it very
well. शंभो शिव शंभो स्वयंभो गंगाधर शंकर करुणाकरा महभव भव सागर ओ शंभो शिव शंभो स्वयंभो धिमित धिमि धिमि किट किट तुम तरि किट किट तुम धिमित धिमि धिमि किट किट तुम तरि किट तुम धिमित धिमि धिमि किट तुम तरि किट तुम मतंग मुनिवर वंदित ईशा सर्वदिगंबर वेशित नटेश ईश सवेश सवेश मतंग मुनिवर वंदित ईश सर्वदिगंबर वेशित वेश नित्य निरंजन नर्तनटेश ईश सवेश सवेश शंभो शिव शंभो स्वयंभो गंगाधर शंकर करुणाकरा महभव भव सागर भो शंभो शिव शंभो स्वयंभो 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 शिव शंभो स्वयंभो शिव शंभो स्वयंभो 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 शिव शंभो
because I've done a lot of experimental work, but when I do experimental work, I break away from the format. I have to break away from the format. When I'm doing an experimental work, it is completely driven by what I have to say, and I look for formats to say that. I don't need to necessarily fit a varnam only into that,
Yeah, it has to complement one another. And
it can be a different format. It can be a format outside the margam. I need to say something. When I did Ritu Samhara, I used jatis, I used tanam, I used a lot of elements of music and dance, but I didn't fit it into something because it doesn't do justice then. Because when you take a Kalidasa work or something, it has its own spirit, and you have to look for formats to be able to say that. This kind of a contrived thing of pushing it into the margam and doing one thing, that I feel is not necessary. Because we are moved from one set of parameters to another set of parameters. Today we are using light as a choreographic device. It's not, light is not just there to show your face or enhance what you're doing. it is a choreographic device.
Yes,
So when
yes.
you're using light as a choreographic device, then even as you're conceiving the piece, you have to see what kind of light will enhance that particular episode or that particular section. And while, because I think even for me, my costume designer and my light person is sitting with me when I'm creating the work. Because if it's not done like that, you just call him at the end of the work and
Grand
say, now
rehearsal.
light me up. You know, those, then don't expect any magic with lights. It will just be, showing what you're doing.
Exactly.
But if you want it as an element in your choreography, if you want costume to say something in your work, then I think the engagement has to be in a different level. It has to be right from the beginning, from the conceptual stage itself. You need to involve professionals who understand it and who can sit with you and work.
Correct, because then you're also giving them space and time to think and bring in their own creations. Otherwise, they're just getting away with whatever is there, whatever is available. Chalo, khatam kar do. It becomes like that.
शुद्ध ब्रह्म परात्पर राम, कालात्मक परमेश्वर राम। शुद्ध ब्रह्म परात्पर राम, कालात्मक परमेश्वर राम। शेषकल्प सुख निद्रित राम, ब्रह्माद्यमर प्रार्थित राम। चंड किरण कुल मंडन राजा श्रीराम। राम राम जय सीता राम, राम राम जय राजा राम, राम राम जय सीता।
he did far more to make the higher castes ashamed of the wrongs of the caste system.
Through Natya Vriksha Dance Company, known for the high aesthetic quality of group presentations, if you were to pick one presentation that was very challenging, which one would it be?
Anekanta, which is our latest work, which was done about 2-3 years back. It is from Jaina philosophy.
Okay.
And it was done on two evenings, consecutive evenings. The first day was a solo and the second day was a group. And this philosophy just talks of multiple realities, how that truth is not absolute and it can be viewed from different prisms, and there are many multiple interpretations to it. So I found that very, very engaging, and I worked with a scholar called Sudhamai Raghunathan, and came up, understood this concept and sat with her and read many books, and then went on to attempt it through Bharatanatyam. And it was an intense work for about 5 to 6 months before we could actually even start the choreography, the music, the track and everything that we had to work towards. And challenging because it was a very abstract concept, and we looked at it from the angle of just using a simple Alaripu, Tisra Alaripu, how the Tisram Alaripu can be said in 3 different ways. And we performed all 3 variations on stage.
Okay.
So how multiple interpretations in life can coexist? It's not necessary that they should clash. So through that simple Alaripu, we used as a metaphor to say that there are multiple things happening and all are relevant. And if we do not kind of learn to respect each other and to give equal voice to everybody and be inclusive, it's going to be very, very stressful and traumatic. So we used such things to say a lot of things. And then we used music, how Graha Beda, changing one note, how it changes the complexion of the raga and goes into another raga. And how that melody then, that though it has changed in raga, a layman finds it difficult to understand. He knows there's something, but he doesn't know what happened. So life is like that. It is changing constantly. Sometimes you know it, sometimes you don't know it, So these subtle things were taken up, and we had something like 15 or 16 dancers on stage. We did it in Kamani. And then the last thing we did was something called Navagunjara we used in that, which is the form from uh, from Oriya Mahabharata, where Arjuna, when he's in the forest, he encounters this very strange animal of 9 different animals together, and he doesn't
Okay.
understand what is it. And just when, as he is going to take the arrow and shoot at it, he sees the lotus there, and he realizes that this is a manifestation of the divine, and he prostrates. And so it is a message to say that sometimes what we see is really not what it is. So so we need to really process things before we react. So
Correct.
many things were there, and we use yanta matram, that beautiful composition where you say you perceive the divine in whatever way you want to perceive the divine, and the divine is there for you. So I think it was a very, very interesting concept. We would like to travel with it, but it is tech heavy work. So in India, you create a lot of work, but difficult to travel with it
Yeah.
because
The
it becomes
expenses and everything. Yeah. But
difficult
I
to.
think it's a beautiful piece because in the present time, I think everybody needs to understand this, because being
Absolutely.
inclusive and not immediately reacting to something that happens, you even finish reacting before even the whole thing is set into you. So it's such a beautiful concept. I hope that this you get to travel with this, and you also come to Ahmedabad. Let me see how I can manage that.
sa sa da da ni da da ba ma re sa ma sa sa ni da ga sa ni ba ma ga ma ba sa sa da da ni da da ba ga ri sa sa ni ni da 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 ba ma ma da ma ga sa. Ma pa da sa ni.
Geeta ji, you are widely respected role model for the youth generation. You are involved with various universities and schools. Have you designed a specific program for the school children to understand and appreciate our cultural heritage for the school or university, which could be used and introduced? Because now, with this new format with the government is coming up, to include arts also as part of these studies, it will be very useful.
Well, in the last few years, this has been my passion of not because I spent, I think, many years cribbing about it. Oh, there's no culture in school, there's no culture, there's nothing in the name of culture. So, few schools invited me to kind of work on the curriculum and to see how it can be done. And 3 or 4 of my students wanted to engage in this. So we became quite a team, and they started working on it. I only used to supervise. And I also am part of the board of many schools.
Right.
So I do try and one particular school is very interesting, which is a school uh, in UP, in a remote area in UP. And of course, the management is extremely proactive. And they told me to kind of see what can be done. And I think the first is to realize the problem. The problem is that right now, what is being done in the name of culture is complete tokenism. And there's absolutely nothing that is, there's no understanding of what arts education is all about. So it's a very sad situation. When I went initially, when the music teacher, the tabla teacher, the dance teacher all came. So when I asked them to introduce themselves, the first thing is, I'm a Kathak dancer. I'm trained in Kathak. I'm a tabla teacher. So the first beginning point for me was to say, I'm from the performing arts department. Let's begin there. Because the child doesn't know tabla teacher,
So
music
true.
teacher. The child's mind is just one whole. So the first thing was to create a dialogue between the teachers. I think there was so much of me, my work, my discipline, my. I made them sit in each other's class, watch what they are teaching. They themselves didn't know. And the next thing I did was to call the subject teachers, Hindi teacher, Sanskrit teacher. And I said, no yapun dindu tusharaharadavula. Finished, over. Sanskrit teacher will provide 10 songs on Saraswati, which the music teacher will then compose, and then the dance teacher will then engage.
Yeah, but
The resources which are there in the school,
Within
in
the
the college, are not explored. Very simple things I'm saying. I'm not going into the big outcome. If you do this will come out, that will come out. First is to understand what we have and where to begin. Somewhere we have to begin.
yeah,
And the next thing which I did is I sat with the management and I said, there will be no annual day. There will be no 15th August. There will be no 26th January. All the teachers are doing in the schools is these three things.
very true.
They are only for these things. Rest of the time, they don't care what the teachers are doing. Nobody knows what the teachers are doing. But come 15th August, there'll be this thing. Where is the dance teacher? Where is the music teacher? Where is the choir? Where is the... Suddenly there is... Then again, 26th January, again, then there'll be this mega thing called the annual day.
Annual function.
There'll be the whole school, and then the principal will come on stage and take great pride and say, today, 3,000 children have participated. And what has the one child done? Stood like this, like a tree. That is culture for that child.
Yeah, very true, very true.
So we crossed that and we said only class performances. Only the parents of that class will come and that class will do something once in 6 months or once in a year. However much you want, you can do that, depending on what the motivation is and how you want to do it. So that every child, 20, 30, whatever it is, gets to do something in the preparation of the event and feels involved and feels responsible for the event.
Exactly.
So we thought of that. That's working very well. Then what we did was every day after assembly, 10 minutes of music listening. It can be any music. They don't need to identify the artist. They don't need to identify the instrument. They don't need to say anything, nothing. Just kansen. No tansens there, only kansens. Third thing was that one class, see what happens normally in most of the schools is 6th, 7th, 8th, they all choose one activity. So I realized that the one who's doing music knows nothing about dance or about anything else, about cinema or about any of the other, disciplines. So then I said, once a month, you will have combined classes, You'll have a class where all of you sit together and you see a film or you see a performance of a great artist on YouTube and you will all discuss and write about it.
Oh, very nice. Okay.
So this then brought all disciplines together. So if they saw a film on of course, I gave them a lot of YouTube links, which were from PSBT, from Sahapedia, from a lot of resource material, which I culled out, and books, book discussion. So we thought that all this engagement was very important for children to understand the holistic aspects of culture and and also to write about culture. See, writing is a big casualty. Nobody wants to write on culture. So the writing skill of expression of if you see something, what is your takeaway? What are you taking away? You think about that. You just don't see it and leave it and go away. You need to think if you're asked to write about it. So I think the series of engagements like this in that school is making a difference. Of course, I was asked by the next generation of management that, ma'am, we are doing so much. Can you give us some statistics as to how we are moving? I said, no, I can't give you any statistics. This is the intangible. The intangible heritage can only be taught, and we only hope and wish at some point something will come out. So unless management is also on the same page and they understand that this is an investment which is made, which will not immediately show result, and that it takes time for these things to kind of come out. It's very gratifying. I'm suddenly in an airport waiting for something, and one student comes and says, "Ma'am, many years back you came to my school for Spikmeke, and I carry that event with me, and 2 or 3 things which you have said have been so close to my heart that I have followed it myself." So but it's a drop in the ocean, but you feel happy that yes, somewhere you're making a difference.
And that's
so
very
I think
important also, yes.
this is not something that can happen like that. So the greatest problem in arts education is we don't have teachers. Trainers are the problem. We have great syllabus. I was part of the curriculum framework in NCERT many years back. We spent years on coming up with fantastic curriculum. All that is there. But who is to teach it? See, the attitude is this: I'm a Kathak dancer. I'm a this thing. I'm a this thing. And the other thing that we did of course, in a more affluent school in Delhi, in a very progressive school, is we make all the arts teachers sit in formal class. They must know what is happening in the geography class. They must know what is happening in the history class. They have to sit once or twice a week. They have to sit in the scholastic part of the curriculum, because they must know what the child is doing in the other periods, and then find some synergy where they can break into that and see how the arts can make that formal intervention of helping them learn the scholastic part. So it's a long engagement. So there is, you are in a university. I think the biggest thing any university now can do is to start a course for trainers. Somebody, because I think this whole plan will fail if you don't have good trainers. Another Kathak dancer cannot just be seeing herself as a Kathak dancer. She has to see herself at least as a movement teacher, somebody who understands body, because nobody is going to become a Kathak dancer, a great Birju Maharaj out of the school. You don't need to teach Tate Tetat, Ate Tetat. You need to see rhythm in things around you. You need to find rhythm in what the child is doing otherwise. And you need to engage with mythology. You need to revisit characters in mythology. You kind of see the grays in things. Critical thinking needs to be brought in through the arts. So unless all this is done, the child thinks, what is Kathak for me? You go and stand in the class and say, ta, te, te, ta. Who wants to do this? And then it also becomes gender specific. There's so many issues, So I just feel that really, if the university is serious about it, this is the time to really go into. Anybody who wants to go into school teaching needs to first understand the holistic part of culture. What is Indian culture? Its possibilities. What is the potential? So I think my take is that, and of course my students are well into it. I've been telling them, come up with a curriculum which you can take to the schools and which you can do, because they have put in a lot of work in this, and some of them are really seeing arts as a helping tool into even scholastic teaching.
Correct. No, also, the fact that when I'm at this college where every May, June, July, that's the time during vacation where there is inquiries for admission into performing arts. And what happens is that there are very serious students who have that passion to want to get into this field, but the parents say, no, this cannot be something that you can study and get a degree. Then you do some other bachelor in commerce or BBA or something like that, or ye side mein karo. Then I make them sit and understand, see, today, if you're talking about that degree certificate which you want the child to have, a bachelor degree or a master degree, it doesn't really matter in what they go, because eventually many times you end up doing something very different from what you've actually studied in. And if somebody is so passionate about the field, I said, if you put them into that, they will come out with flying colors, because they are so much into it that they will do well, they will get a distinction, or even much better than that. Mainly if you're looking at the marking side of it. And again, like you said,
And I think also the traditional, career options are all drying up. There is
absolutely.
nothing, no job. So it is, and and as they say, artificial intelligence is going to take up everything, and what is really going to be left is only the creative sector.
Absolutely.
So if you see from say 40 years from now, 50 years from now, it is only the artists and the creative sector which is going to be sought after. Everything else can be done by a machine,
Yes.
or by a robot. So if you don't invest now in that, I think you're being foolish.
Yeah, very true. Because I have a lot of engineering students, after having paid lakhs of rupees to get admission into an engineering college, 5.5 years of struggling in that, sleepless nights. And then they get the degree and tell their parents, we don't want to do this because we're not getting a job. So now let us go into performing arts. So they come into Hindustani vocal, they come into dance, they come into theater. I mean, it's very true. And I think the parents also need to understand this. So, when you introduce it at school level, and the child is able to, you can understand the aptitude of the child, so the parents realizes, okay, I think this is where he or she will excel very well, so let me give that freedom for them to continue or pursue it. It's very true.
Educating the parents is I think that's what the management asked me to do well early. They said that the next session is not with the students and the teachers, but the parents. I want you all to talk to the parents. So I did a session with the parents, and as you rightly said, these communities are all trading communities or communities with business, etc. So the mindset is a certain way,
Yes.
and they feel that those are the only professions that the children should get into. And nowadays children are exposed to so much more, and they see possibilities in so many things. So I think that that's an ongoing argument, that parents need to understand where the aptitude lies. And just the aptitude is not good enough. That's the other thing. I feel many times there is great potential as a dancer, but they don't seek out a guru. They want the auntie next door to teach them, and they want to become Yamini Krishnamurti. It is not going to happen. So I always say that for an engineering degree, you can go to Timbuktu and you can go anywhere in the world and spend, lakhs and crores or whatever. But when it comes to dance, seeking out a guru and going and, staying in a city that the guru is, you find it very difficult. Now, if that is your take, then I think, just having talent is of no use.
That's true. That's true. Very true. Your N Dance the Universe concept, is that something in connectivity with this, or what is that? Can you talk a little about that?
It's just that, I think dance can engage people from any kind of background. I seriously believe that. If you say a certain thing in a certain way that appeals, that has an emotional connect, um, you really can reach out. And that has been my experience wherever I performed, whether in India, outside, to the younger generation, which really feels that they do not need to engage with this. They come in with a mental block, but 40 minutes into the work, they say, oh, this is, I didn't know this. Let me sit up. So I think to see dance as just not entertainment, but part of an intellectual dialogue, part of life, part of expression, part of expressing what is your innermost feeling, desire, angst, whatever it is. So I think viewing dance as a communication tool with all its possibilities, I think sky is the limit. I think you can address any audience, you can address anybody and win them over. So I feel that is enhancing the universe. I think there is, one should just not have the hesitation or the kind of doubt in one, the conviction with which you are able to say something, that I would like all my artist friends and colleagues to have, and treat it as a very, very potent communication tool which they have with them, to be able to say anything with it, with that strength
Conviction.
of conviction.
Wow. And what about the Prime Minister of India's Swachh Bharat campaign? Can you please tell us more about the concept that you worked on?
I am not part of the Swachh Bharat, I'm not a member of the Swachh Bharat thing, but I took up one cause, one aspect of hygiene, because I was impressed with what the Prime Minister was trying to say, because I think cleanliness and hygiene is something so basic to all of us.
Yes.
And we don't really give too much of importance to it in our society. And what I thought of was a clean toilet,
Mhm.
the use of toilet. If I have the right to a clean toilet, my slogan was that if I have a right to a clean toilet, so that does the person coming next after me have a right to a clean toilet. So do we teach our children how to use the toilet? Do schools teach us this? No. If you go to a school, the worst thing you see is the
Yes. The washrooms. Yeah.
washrooms. So I took up that, and I do talk about it wherever I perform. And I just ask people to give a moment of thought the next time they go to a public convenience space, and leave it clean for the person who's coming next. Because you feel you need a clean toilet for yourself,
Yes.
so does the person coming next. So there's simple ways of taking up one thing, because in India there's so many things that you can deliberate upon, you can think, but I think one thing, if you take up seriously, it can, as we said, it is a ripple effect. Slowly, what you say, maybe 4 people further then take it up and do something. So this is my uh, commitment to this cause, and wherever I perform, I do talk about it.
Wonderful. In fact, the NAC team, when they come from the university for inspection, I was surprised when the NAC team came last time. The head of the team, the first thing he did is, I want to go to the washroom. So we thought, all right, he wants to go to the washroom, so let him. But he came back and he said, wherever you go, if you go to the washroom, you know how the management is and what the management is doing. And the other thing, which even our executive director and the management says, you have peons who are working, you have the cleaning staff who comes there to do all this work. But unfortunately, they don't have all the facilities in their house. So they don't realize what cleanliness is and what should be done. So the first thing they do when they bring in the staff is basically to explain, okay, we'll give you everything that is required as far as material is concerned, but this is what needs to be done. So, there was a huge change because at one point of time, everybody realized, why is this place so dirty? And everybody was shouting at the cleaner. But then he doesn't know what it is, because at home, this is what the condition is. Then when he was given that information, when his knowledge increased on that, then the next thing we saw that you had very clean washrooms. So it's very...
Yes, I think orientation of
Yes.
a particular job that you bring in a person into is very important, and putting things in context and perspective, why you are doing what you're doing, and why what is expected of you. That's again the same thing with the teachers in an arts education
Yes.
system. The frame is not defined. I started in fact, I started when I started talking to the management, the first thing I said is, what do you want the child, when the child is coming out from class 12 in your school, what do you want the child to know about the arts, and what should be the child's take about the arts? So there are many things which were said, and I think the first thing was to take pride in your arts and to be well informed about your arts. I feel this is the simple mandate, that if the person, if the child sees a Patachitra, he should be able to say, this is from Odisha and this is Patachitra from Odisha. Sees Kathakali and doesn't say it is a mask dance. You know, simple things like this, the child doesn't know right now. I've seen very senior scholars say Kathakali is a mask dance. So I think this is what we need.
No,
That
true, because
exposure. And if there is exposure, there is also pride. You respect an artist. Next time you see an artist, you say namaskar, because you respect the art form he is practicing or she is practicing. And tomorrow you go and sit in a company as a CEO and you have funds, you then think about the arts.
yes.
That is also there. I always come full circle. So these are the people who are going to be sitting as CSR people, sitting controlling CSR funds. Unless they empathize with the arts, unless they know
Yes.
what the arts stand for, unless they know how much the struggle of an artist is, unless they read the biographies of great artists, what struggle they've gone through to get where they have got. The first thing I ordered is in the library biographies, whatever biographies were possible of all artists. Read
Okay.
it so that you at least know it doesn't come on a platter, the struggle that every artist is going through and continues to go through till the last breath in his life. Because arts are something which are very unkind. I can't call myself a dancer if I don't dance for a week. It's an ongoing struggle, ongoing battle with the body. So if all this is made and they empathize with all this, then you create sensitive human beings. Whatever they do law, they do anything else, they are deep down sensitive about culture.
Yes, it molds them into a beautiful human being with, like with all the senses, in fact, working in the right direction.
This is what we want at the end of the day.
Yes.
How do we now work backwards to arrive at this? So this thought has to be there.
Very true. In fact, even our history says that if the kings were not patrons of art, it never would have survived. So the present generation, when they had, like very rightly said, when they had organizations, if they do not support the art, then I don't think that is going to be help in a very good way. And also, they will also not blossom as beautiful human beings. Very true.
Yes. And the pandemic has taught us there is nobody in the pandemic who hasn't listened to music or picked up a book and read poetry or, tried to dance or do yoga or, engage in something or the other to de-stress themselves and keep themselves usefully occupied. So I think the pandemic has taught us that the importance of connecting with yourself. And how do you connect with yourself? Only through music, dance, poetry, theater. These are the only ways that help you connect with yourself.
Yes, very true. Geeta ji, your favorite creation that has left a tremendous feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction in your heart?
Yet to come.
So which means all the beautiful work that you've done till today, we are going to be having something really wonderful coming up. What a way to say it. Wow. 4 decades of dedication.
I always find faults with myself and I always feel that, I can do something better. So I think that's what keeps one going also.
Yes. 4 decades of dedication to classical dance since your Arangetram in 1974. And in 2016, it marked the Silver Jubilee celebrations of Natya Vriksha. What are you now working on?
The pandemic has made me think a lot about a lot of things, a lot of new ideas, revisiting a lot of the older pieces and giving it a new, as I said, contextualizing it in a different frame because the frame has changed, everything has changed. The post-pandemic normal is not going to be the old normal. So how can we better engage with the arts and how can we take this forward? Pedagogy has been an important part of that. Every class, I'm in a process of thinking with the thinking cap on as to what better can be done. Because I really feel, the dance pedagogy does not encourage thinking. I really feel that dance pedagogy has to teach the artist to think. If that is not there, then you will just have mindless bodies dancing. So that critical thinking is very important. And you have to learn to bring it into the arts, because life around us is so stressful, and we cannot live in a fool's paradise in this utopia of ours. We have to, if there is a rape that has happened and you've read about that, when you do a piece, say, of Meera's longing for Krishna, you have to bring that angst into it, into the dance. You have to carry that intense emotion that you experience when you hear somebody else suffer. You have to bring it into your dance.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what is the point? What is the point? So each time you need to contextualize what you're doing. You need to keep changing the frame, and that teaching, that has to be taught, and that's I'm grappling with that. How do I teach that? How do I make children kind of responsible citizens, and at the same time very evocative, creative artists with good technique and with good understanding of the tradition?
Yeah, and be very sensitive about everything, because it's not just you, but everything around you matters.
ಅವನಿ ಬಾಲಶಿಗಾವಣಿ ವಿದರಣ ಗುಣಮುಲಗುಣಿ ಲರಿ ರಜಕುಂಕಳನಿ ರಜವೈರಿ ವೆರ್ಮಲನಿ ಕವಿತಲು ಪೂಜನ ಮುಲನಿ ತುಮಗಲು ಕಲಚಿ ಅವನಿ ಬಾಲಶಿಗಾವಣಿ ವಿದರಣ ಗುಣಮುಲಗುಣಿ ಲರಿ ರಜಕುಂಕಳನಿ.
As a youth icon, what message would you like to give the youth?
Stay there, work hard, because the gestation period in dance is long and it is lonely. So reach out. There are many artists who, whose lives and whose thought process can guide you. So don't feel lonely. Always there is, light at the end of the tunnel. And try to identify your strengths. I always say, don't copy somebody else. See where your strengths lie. Just saying I'm a good dancer doesn't help. Analyze yourself. What is good about me? What is not so good about me? What are the points where I need to improve? What is it that I need to do in a different way so that the impact is better? So constant introspection. I've also encouraged my students nowadays to make their own video and watch it.
Right.
Once they feel that because they have the discerning capacity already. They know, they have an eye. They know what is good dancing. So I say, from your own lens, you grade yourself. You are the best critic for yourself. When I say something over and over again, you feel I'm being over critical about something. You see it yourself. Now technology, so use of technology in teaching, learning is much better today, and these are things that we need to evolve more. And guided viewing is very important, I feel. You view something, you discuss it in the class and see. So that is guided viewing, which also I've tried in the schools,
Right.
where they see something, they just don't see it, but it has to be guided by the teacher. You take the child or the students through that uh, you know video. So that is another thing that we are also trying in the class. So if Balama's, Satyajit Ray film is shown, we talk about it. We see what is it, how dance has changed, how the intensity of what she did. Of course, the film is not done full justice to her. There's not much of documentation of her, but still the essence is there. And
Yes.
from there, what you take. So that has to be guided. You just don't say that, please go and watch that film. No, you watch it with them and you guide them through that.
Yeah, and discuss
And
it. And yes.
I think that's so. For the youngsters, it is that the avenues are many. Don't get confused. Stay the course, and have a mentor, please. Nobody's so great that you can just travel this without a guru or a mentor.
Yes.
It's very important to dialogue, to see, to talk, to learn, and it's a constant learning process. So even if you pick up many skills along the way, you still need to synergize that. You need to kind of see it in your body, and also I think um, um, showing your work to different people, previewing your work. I always, when I finish a work, or I'm in the process, I ask many people to see my work and give me a feedback.
Critical.
Yes, because I think everybody sees it from their prism
Yes.
and their angle. Then you get another input for it. If a scholar sees it from the point of view of content, and then a theatre person sees it from the point of view of presentation and from the point of view of the theatrics of it. So I think different people, for that you need to also have friends across the board,
Yes.
not just chat with just dancers and inbreeding. You need to widen, you need to see theatre, you need to engage in the process of theatre. We used to always do that. NSD was our adda, we used to go
Okay.
and see her. We used to go and see a lot of work there. Musicians, we have a lot of friends, musicians across genres. We have friends. So I think we grew up with understanding all this. And today it's become very myopic, unfortunately. Become very myopic. It needs me, myself, my work. I think then your creative impulses won't come from all these other spaces. After a point, you can't sit in a room and create.
Yeah.
You need that creative input coming from various sources. So that's the other advice. Just go and watch a lot and widen your canvas.
Yes, and also I think 2 years ago when we did a symposium here, one of the reasons I did the symposium was that we have a lot of teachers, and I have been with gurus whom what is the content and what that person was. So I said, let's have a symposium, let's bring gurus, and please spend the time with them in every aspect of Bharatanatyam. So there was a talam session, there was something to do with the repertoire of Bharatanatyam and everything, even aesthetics of, what lighting is, what costume is and everything. And the first thing I told them is, please come saying, I don't know, and don't be scared. If supposing you are playing the Natvangam and you make mistakes and they say, oh, my students are also sitting with me. If they see that, what will happen? I said, doesn't matter. That's the only way you can correct yourself, because what will happen is, once you give in to that, you will come out better. So leave your inhibitions outside and walk in. Just like, that beautiful painting of Krishna, where he's sitting on the tree and the gopis are in the water and the clothes are with him. It's not that the gopis are naked and Krishna is sitting there with the clothes, but there's a lot of philosophy in that. So it is like surrendering to everything and coming out. And, so I said, do that, then you will become a much better person and you will come out learning at least something out of this. Geetaji, I wish I can bring you to Ahmedabad after this pandemic. And you said you don't do workshops, but I think even sessions of discussions like this, where you have academic discussions and something like this by a symposium, it would definitely be very good for the artists of Gujarat. So I look forward to that. And thank you very, very much for this session. It was beautiful. Thank you very much.